Hey everybody, Pete A.Turner from the Break It Down Show. It's Friday. Let's take this easy. I brought in a hilarious guy named Richard Siegel, who's like a superstar writer for LinkedIn, among other places. He's also an author, a copywriter, a screenwriter, a blogger. He does a lot of different things. He's worked for brands like Clorox, TripAdvisor, GoDaddy, Wells Fargo, Mountain Dew, Toyota, Taco Bell. He has done a lot of freelance projects for a lot of different places. And he also has a book that came out recently, and it's called Mr. Siegel Writes to Washington. And what he did was he wrote all of the Republican senators, actually, and I think he also wrote one Democratic senator and just calls them out on their bullshit. The reason why I love Richard is because he has that kind of commentary on day-to-day life, on politics, that's enjoyable for everybody. And that's one of the things that I value on this show, is being able to illuminate right-leaning, left-leaning, and just show that, hey, these are all good people that have valuable opinions and insight. And I think we can all learn from Richard and what he does. You can check out his book, Mr. Siegel Writes to Washington, on Amazon. He's also got his big book of rants, Tuesdays with Montu. There's a lot out there. You can go on Amazon and find all of it. Really quickly on the business side, here's how you support the show. And I have a new way for you to support the show. If you've seen our Break It Down Show banner that we have, it's got all of the slides that we do from the show. And there's hundreds of them. And I'm a little bit sick of that. And it's getting to be so tiled that it doesn't make a lot of sense. I'd like to start adding in pictures of people who listen, whether it's in Saudi Arabia, I see you, Australia, Japan, Sweden, Spain, Portugal, Russia, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Sweden, Chad, Tunisia, Italy, Malta, all these different places that listen, and I could keep on going down that list. Send me your picture. Pete A. Turner on Twitter, or just Pete at Break It Down Show. Send me your picture. I want to start putting you guys into the slide, because really, this is what's important. You're me from all over the world, and I really want you guys to talk to me in this way. So let's start doing that. The next thing is SaveTheBrave.org. If you guys can donate a little money each month, I'd appreciate it. Click on SaveTheBrave.org. Go to the Donate tab, monthly subscription, $10, $15, $25, $100, whatever it is. That's a great way for you to contribute. You can say, I already do something, I already give, and it will be 100% true. All right, back to Richard. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I will talk to you on Monday.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hi, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
I'm Victor Davis Hanson, and this is Break It Down Show.
Hi, this is Rich Siegel, author of a new book, Mr. Siegel Writes to Washington, and you're listening to the Break It Down Show.
Yeah, we're here in Culver City and hanging out at this little haunt in the back, the speakeasy room. And off to the side, I have my co-production assistant who helped set this up. So thank you to that person. Yeah, it was great. Tell me about this book. I was reading some of the letters on your blog. Your blog's fantastic, by the way.
Oh, thank you. The blog, Round 17.
Round 17. And once you start reading, you read another one and another one and another one. And it's great. You're great at the... I guess it's almost kind of Seinfeldian, where you're just like, this just came up in my life and we're writing about this today.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I had dinner last week with some friends, and my friend Matt is Irma Bombeck's son. His name is Matt Bombeck. He's also a writer. And he said a lot of what I do is sort of in her style, It's sort of like whatever happens that day, if I can turn it into something. And I like to think that I have certain standards. If it's not going to be interesting, I don't even bother. But another friend of mine, another writer, says that I have a knack for taking the little things in life and blowing up into something bigger. And I just try to make it human. But your comment about like how people will first find the blog and then they find themselves an hour later going, well, wait a minute, I read 100 of these things.
Yeah.
And that's by design. I mean, I'm not any great literary shakes writer. I'm a writer. I just like spill it out and make it go forward. That's my thing. And I write conversationally, and so a lot of people tell me that. They just find it easy to get through. They say it's almost like you're talking to me in your head. And I said, well, then that's the goal,
Yeah. When did you know that was your style?
It's funny. It took me a while to get there, and that's why I really enjoyed doing the blog. But, for so many years I've been working as an advertising writer and doing my writing in the voices of the brands I happen to be working for. And it gets a little frustrating. Most people who go into advertising or TV or film, they want to do their own thing. And I was having trouble finding my voice through the advertising. And then I started reading, when I started reading blogs, and a friend of mine introduced me to her friend who writes a different blog called adaged.com. And it's written by a fellow named George Tannenbaum. And I loved what he was doing. And I said, well, I should try that. And I started doing it, and it wasn't regular, but then I said, no, I'm going to give myself the discipline of doing this 4 days a week, almost like a newspaper writer. I was going to force myself to do it. And I've been doing that now for close to 11 years.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah,
it is. And now it's like George has always said, it's become a labor of love, and it's kind of therapeutic. Mm-hmm. I can put the stuff that goes on in my life into a little story. So it works as a journal, as well as my observations on mostly politics and advertising. And
hey, this is Pete A.Turner from the Break It Down Show, checking in real quick to ask you this. John, Scott, and I all support Save the Brave with our time, our location, our effort, and our money. Each month we give a small amount. Do the same with us. Go to savethebrave.org, click on the Donate tab, pick an amount that you want to come out each month, and they will handle all the rest. I stand behind these folks. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the show.
My observations on mostly politics and advertising and other things that interest me, like religion and politics and, that kind of stuff.
Once you hit publish, are you done with that piece, or do you ever go back and just read through? And
I often go back to fix typos
well, I'm the king of that.
Yes, people will call me and go, "You left out a word or you misspelled a word," and I don't like that. So I sort of force myself to go back and fix things.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is sometimes I will have one of those, the ones I've written in my head, and I'll kick it around and go, wait, I missed an opportunity for a good joke. And I'll go back and I'll tweak it. I'll add a joke, and nobody will notice, but I know it's there.
It's there. Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm a typo machine. I can't see them anymore like I used to be able to. Used to be better. And even when I try all of the modern tools, I still manage to screw it up. I've become more fallible in my writing in my older age.
Yeah. Even if you do the word check, it'll still miss.
It still misses
if
things.
you put too many words in or leave a word out, it won't tell you that's happening. So
yeah.
So that happens, and then then the blog helped me find my voice, and then I started publishing books, self-publishing books, which is another thing I like to do because I don't have to have I worked a little in TV and film, and there's this whole thing where you have to have an agent, and the agent has to put you in touch with people, and it just becomes very layered and subject to a lot of different agendas that I didn't like. Whereas in self-publishing, I write it the way I want to write it. Nobody tells me that has to go or that can't be said. And then I send it off to Amazon, and they publish it, and it costs me a few dollars, but it's worth it.
Mr. Siegel Writes to Washington is kind of in the same vein. It's almost blog-like because you're writing a letter to a senator, but let's be honest, it's not meant for them to receive and go, oh, Richard has written me. Oh, what does he have to say?
No, hardly. In fact, after all the letters I've written, I got one response.
Did you really?
Yeah, one response in the form of a form letter. A form letter via email through Senator Tom Cotton from Texas. So they don't read it,
Yeah.
And I sent it multiple ways. What I would do is I would put it in snail mail. I'd print it out, send it snail mail, and then I would go to their Facebook pages and their Twitter pages and then their contact pages and send it there. So that I know somebody at the office would see
For sure,
it.
several times.
Yeah, and then they'd laugh and go, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, can I curse?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
So, do you expect response? I mean, look, I read the Mitch McConnell one on the way over here, and I wouldn't expect Mitch to. If I wrote that, I would my point is, in that I'm writing this and kind of letting you have it.
Yeah.
Do you expect any of these guys to actually write you back?
No. Part of as I was going through the journey of writing to each and every one of these senators, and knowing that the next election is coming up, my thought was somebody on the Democratic side could take this book and use it as a tool. That was part of my hope. So I actually went back and I tweaked the letters a little. I took out a lot of the cursing, a lot of the coarse language. So I sort of cleaned it up a little, not much. I mean, if you've read some of these, there's plenty of rage and anger in there.
For sure.
But I thought the Democrats might want to use, but you know what? It turns out they're as bad at the game as Republicans are good at it. And we can see that this week, what's going on. I don't know how many times something has to happen where they just go, oh, well, we're considering this, or we're thinking of, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Just arrest someone.
Yeah.
I find myself screaming at the TV. It's like, I wrote Nancy Pelosi this morning. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
They make you look so bad just by not doing anything. And it doesn't even have to be legal. Like, they could arrest someone through this thing I've discovered called inherent contempt of Congress, which they can send the sergeant at arms, throw the handcuffs on someone, haul them off. They have a little jail inside the Capitol Hill. Put the guy in the jail until he bails out, and then it'll go to court later. But at least they will have made the effort and had a little dramatic show, like, we're not putting up with this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I don't want to get too distracted by politics, but I was watching the Democratic debates the other day, and I watched all these congressional members hollering at each other about problems that I'm like, hey, dummy, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you pass legislation?
Yeah, exactly.
Get out there and do this. And it's not just Donald Trump. Like, these are problems that have been around for long enough that if you're Joe Biden and you've been sitting there, and all of them, it drives me a little crazy to hear them complain about, like, no, you guys are in charge of this, right? So back to the book. Did you consider any Democratic senators that you wanted to write and holler at them too? I mean, I know the thing was like the Republican side of it, but did you go through a process and say, do I include these guys? And if so, who?
Well, actually, I did include one Democratic senator who, not very Democratic if you ask me, Joe Manchin from West Virginia.
Okay.
He was, I think I wrote to him during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, and he actually voted to confirm Kavanaugh, which I thought was bad. And it's just like, he's a politician. He'll play both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
And he'll claim it's in this spirit of bipartisanship, but they're all out for their own good. And yes, I have considered that might be the follow-up book, is writing to the Democratic side, because I have no doubt that even if they win the Senate in the next election, they will have screwed things up just as much, And a part of it is because you've seen them in these hearings, they do so much posturing. They're so busy with the posturing that they forget what they're there for, to do the work.
Yeah.
And I've run into it in advertising. You sit in a meeting and people stand up and they'll just blather on for 5 minutes and they don't really have anything to say, but they wanted to I want to be the smart one in this meeting.
Yeah.
And I think it's part of corporate culture, It's like, that's why nothing gets done.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of trying to stand out, get the best jokes in, and get the viral clip to come out of your thing. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it bothers me a lot. Outside of party, because I'm not really a party kind of person, but just to see that kind of, like the Kavanaugh hearings were a shit show.
Yeah.
One senator holds on to evidence, another one does something else, another one takes, and again, all across all parties. So it quickly became that there was no good answer whether Kavanaugh should be approved or not, because everybody had peed in the pool, and the pool was just full of piss.
Yeah, and that's where we're at today. I mean, you don't find a lot of admiration for anybody out there.
Yeah, they managed to have a lower rating than the president.
Yeah.
So let's close the book on that stuff. I want to ask you, I was talking with my girlfriend about the pop culture nature of advertising and how it used to be like this big thing, because we all watched 3, maybe 8 channels tops.
Yeah.
We all saw the same ads, and it was a different way to communicate to a customer. It really was mass communication. Where are the great ads today, do you think?
They're gone.
Oh, man.
They're gone. I'm sorry to say. They are few, or at least they're few and far between. And this is a conversation I have with a lot of my colleagues in the business, because the media landscape has just gotten so flattened out. And there's this kind of like pervading thought like, well, TV is dead. Well, TV is not dead. I would suggest we all watch a lot of TV.
Yeah.
And we just zip through the commercials because they're not interesting. But now there seems to be this focus on putting an ad on Facebook, putting an ad in Instagram, putting an ad on Snapchat, whatever the thing is, and nobody sees that. Or if they do see it, it's easily forgotten because that media is transactional. It's like it works if I need to buy some shock absorbers and I see an ad for shock absorbers on my Facebook feed. Okay, that makes sense. I'll do that. But it's not there to give you this kind of a, oh, wow, we make the best shock absorber or any kind of branding. And that's where TV used to work. And same with outdoor boards and newspaper ads. And unfortunately, those media have become too expensive and people aren't putting in money there. I'm hoping it'll come back, but I don't know when. And then the only time they want to watch TV is during the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like people will tune in, like the game will stop. And everybody goes, shh, and they want to watch the TV spots. Well,
it's the only time of year.
Yeah. And then, so that should be it all the time. I mean, I think the Brits do a much better job with their TV commercials. They're actually funny and people want to see them. And
you think about, like, the World Series used to be something a lot more people watched. It's not as many people watch it. But also, I'm totally fine letting there be a lag in the live nature of the game to skip ads.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing in there that I need to see.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, if you did that, because we do so much multi-screening. Like when I watch football game, I have to turn the thing down because if I'm behind, I don't want to see a score on there, and so that the sports thing presents its own problems because people are always talking about it live.
Yeah.
On their other stuff. So there is a TV spot that's running right now that every time I see it, it makes me laugh. It's for AT&T. And they've done a good job with this whole thing about okay is not okay. And they have that boy band, and they're just sitting there singing the song, but nobody's moving. They're at a concert. Have you seen that one?
No,
they're just singing this pop song, and then you go to the audience, and they're like, shouldn't we be dancing and stuff? And they don't move. They just sit in this like stupid pose, and you just see their mouths moving. It just a friend of mine did that. It just makes me laugh every time I see it.
Yeah. What's the other thing I was going to say about ads in the World Series? Oh yeah, so Joe Rogan has major brands advertising in front of his podcast. And this is like a big step up because it's the same thing. Like the rates per 1,000, and you're gonna pay $65,000 to get in front of Joe's thing, but you've got maybe 15 seconds, maybe half of that for some ads, depending on what you buy. But I mean, we're talking like major brand Woolite. And I'm just saying Woolite, but like brands everybody knows the name of, Cheetos. Right. And but they've got 6 seconds, 15 seconds. Can you craft an ad that will make anybody? I mean, I remember Cheetos specifically, but I'm trying to remember the ads specifically to ask you about this. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in my head.
Yeah. I've done those assignments. I mean, they're kind of fun. I mean, too often when you get the assignments, like come up with a 60-second commercial or a 30-second commercial, and then by the time it gets to the media department, it's like, well, that has to run in 6 seconds. And the idea you came up with for 60 doesn't work in 6.
Right.
And there's no time to fix it, so they just do a cut down, and it doesn't make sense to anybody. But if agencies came to people and said, the idea is we need it in 6 seconds, then the creative people will come back to them with smart, impactful 6-second commercials.
Yeah.
We can do that, but it's always a last minute kind of thing.
Since ads are so different now, and the genius part has gone somewhere else apparently because there aren't great ads like there were before, are the creative people there to do that, or are they working in another industry?
The ad agencies have not done themselves any favors. First they jumped on board this digital marketing thing, and finding every little shiny object to spend money on instead of focusing it on a few. And then they've sort of like priced themselves out of being able to pay for good creatives. And, the ageism thing comes into the older you get, the more expensive you get. And then they find a way of like bringing in kids. The problem is the kids that are coming in they don't have the craftsmanship, and they don't and nobody's teaching them either, because the older people who've been doing it a while have been pushed out and pushed aside. And I'm not just talking myself personally. I mean, I enjoy being a freelancer anyway, but I know so many other people who've been, nudged out of the office.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We've also had the conversation about the team that you create, like, because you've got the visual person and you've got the word person and maybe even the big idea person. And those people get each other and they know how one another thinks. And you get this, I don't want to say synergistic, but you get this thing that's better
Yeah.
some of its parts.
Yeah, but see, they've taken a sledgehammer to that process too. When I was coming up in the business, that's the way we used to do things. We'd sit around and either 2 people or 3-person pods, and we would have time to like come up with shitty ideas, come up with good ones, put it aside, come back to the good ones, rework those a little. Now the deadlines are they're so tight.
Yeah.
And I've literally gone into an assignment where I'll go into an ad agency or I'll get the brief at 9:30 in the morning, and then they'll ask to see the work at 4:30 that afternoon.
What?
Oh, yeah. Or earlier.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just like, well, you can't turn a brand around in a day. You need time to think and get the bad ideas out of the way and, let it stew. That's just the nature of the process. But now there's a gun to your head on everything. This morning, one of my little clients called me and said, "You're not going to believe this." He goes, "Do you have a half hour to spend on something?" And he goes, "No." And he wrote in the email, he goes, "If this is insulting, just choose to ignore it. Or I can give you a half hour's worth of money to work on this thing."
Yeah.
I chose to ignore it.
Yeah.
So it takes me more than a half hour just to read the brief and sort of digest what the problem is. I can't
Right.
offer solutions if I don't even know what the problem
You'd like
is.
me to not think about this. Okay, great.
Yeah, exactly.
How about just send me the check and I've already not done the work?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I should have said.
There's a guy I know, he does underscores for movies, and they sent him a movie and had some music in it, and they're like, "What do you think?" I sent it back. And I said, "It's great." And I'm like, "You build them, right?" And he's like, "I didn't do any work." And I'm like, "You absolutely did some work."
Yeah, exactly. He has expertise in it. So.
Yeah. That's Jim Stemple, by the way. Just I couldn't pull his name right away, but I want to make sure I said it because Jim's a good dude. So, okay. The best creative people are probably not going into the ad industry. I mean, it used to be a real thing that you wanted to go to when there were agencies and everything else. They're pricing the experienced talent out of the market. So where do those guys go? What do they do?
Well, a lot of them have gone in-house.
Okay.
Like a few people I know work for Apple. And then my old partner, he runs the in-house agency for Cisco. So a lot of the big brands can afford to in-house the whole thing.
Right.
And they go about building a department for themselves under their roof.
Yeah.
So that's one way it gets done. And a lot of them will spend the money and actually get experienced people and treat them the right way. And then I assume smaller brands are doing it too. I know people who work at Amazon and Disney. So that's where they're going. I've been fortunate. I've been freelancing for 15 years after I got out of the agency world. At the beginning, I did a lot of work for agencies themselves. Now I'm doing a lot more work for clients directly.
Right.
I couldn't go back to a staff job.
Yeah.
I just enjoy my flexibility too much, and nor do I see the need for it. So I can work remote. And the other thing is, if I work remote and I get the brief, I work remotely, and then I email it in or talk it through on the phone. Nobody sees the white in my goatee or the lack of hair. They don't see how old I am.
Yeah.
Nor should it matter. What it should matter is the piece of paper in front of them, and hopefully I deliver for them, and that's all they care about.
Yeah. I have a friend that works in a corporate environment, and I don't get it anymore. And I'm like, you really could do your own thing, and work remotely. He likes the stress of being in that environment. And I don't know if that's just like his safety thing or whatever, but I don't get that. And like that whole, especially like the ginned up stress, like, we only have 5 hours to get this done. Well, then I'll do 5 hours worth of work.
Yeah.
And you'll get it's not that I don't care, but you've given me 5 hours and I'll work for 5 hours.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of, like you said, a lot of the stress is ginned up. I was freelancing with my partner in an agency not too long ago, and they wanted us on site. So we went on site. They gave us an office to work in. That was nice. But they would send somebody around at 5:30 or 6 with like a book full of menus. And this either young girl or young guy would come in the office and go, "Excuse me, where would you guys like to eat dinner?" Showing me all these restaurant options that they were going to order from. I said, "I'd like to eat at home."
Yeah.
I'm going home.
Going home.
But they did this every night.
Yeah.
So it was like this kind of understanding that you would be there till 8, 10, 9 o'clock, at night, every night. I don't want to work like that. Not only that, as a creative person, I know where my limitations are.
Yeah.
Like, I start to fade like now.
Right.
Good thing I'm having some coffee. But towards the end of the day, it's downhill. You're not going to get anything good from me after 4 or 5 o'clock. You're just not. And conversely, I'm much better in the morning. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'll be in that office and I'll be typing, and I know that's when the good stuff comes. So I don't want to be treated like a baby. I want to be respected as a professional and let me work the way I like to work,
I also am not a fan of you go in, you know how to do your stuff, you're getting your stuff done, and then the boss comes in, it's like, review time. You're not working hard enough, you're not generating enough profit, and you suck.
Yeah.
By the way, I got a new car.
Yeah, yeah.
Come on.
It's so demoralizing.
Yeah.
These companies, they haven't done themselves many favors.
Right. So everybody should check you out on LinkedIn because you do a lot of really great stuff on there. So you have the blog that you do all the time. So you do have constant output, but also you do these great things where you put your barbs in there.
Well, that's the other reason I do the blog is to stay on the radar. I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook, and then so all our colleagues are there all day. And so the thing is, if they think they need a writer, Siegel's doing this funny stuff. Maybe I'll get him in here. But like you said on LinkedIn, this is more of a recent thing that I don't want to give away too much. But this other writer I know, Eric Moe, and him and I find ourselves competing for jobs. And we decided we would use LinkedIn as a platform to almost do like a Mad Magazine Spy vs. Spy. Remember that?
Yeah.
And we would just like trade barbs with each other. And we know the limits. We don't like get too personal. On the other hand, we try to make it mean so people will pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And the views are like crazy. I mean, everywhere I go, I get people going, "Oh, you and Eric must really hate each other." Or they think, "Oh, you must be good friends," because it's kind of obvious. And we think it's pretty obvious, but it's just a lot of fun. And again, it's a way for us to write and be funny. And then sometimes it bleeds over into other platforms.
I was in a webinar thing with Microsoft talking about how to use like Bing and LinkedIn together to empower and generate leads and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things they said, you should do is what you're doing. Get on to LinkedIn and jump in a really busy thread and just get active in there.
Yeah.
Write something.
Yeah. Oh, I do that too. I like to leave little kind of trolling comments on things, but I try to keep them funny. But
they are fun.
But this little thing with Eric Moe and I is fun. It's like it's generating its own little buzz. And the other thing is that we both like doing it. We enjoy doing it, and it's different than. I have a lot of competition. Eric has a lot of competition. And a lot of it, which is kind of weird because if you're a copywriter and art director, to just go on LinkedIn and go, "Hey, I'm available for a job." Where's the creativity in that? There's nothing that's interesting about that. Whereas when Eric and I are doing it, it sort of lets people know we're available. And it also lets them know that we don't take things too seriously.
So in your day, you're going to write your blog. Maybe you've got some freelance work that you're going to work on, but do you find yourself getting sucked in? You're like, "Oh, here's an opportunity." And the next thing you know, you've spent 5 hours of creative time doing this LinkedIn stuff?
I never spend that much time doing any one thing.
Yeah.
I'm like very short attention span, and I like to, especially with social media, come in and out of there. And I do it in conjunction with my work. So I can work on a project.
Right.
And then, like if I'll get to a break point, I'll just stop, and then I'll go back to social media, see what's going on there, leave a comment, and then go back to work. And like it may give the impression that I'm there all day, but I'm not.
Yeah.
That's just the way I work, and a lot of writers work that way too. We need the distraction. Just keeps it, like I feel like I got a hand in the game.
How do you refill the well with like the ideas and the jokes and that kind of thing?
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm lucky because I don't know where they come from a lot of the time. It's just there, Like I wake up in the morning and something and I keep a notepad and I jot things down. I don't write them right away. I just give myself a little subhead. And the blog I get done all on Saturday morning. I mean, I have a friend who does it every day, but for me Saturday, and my wife knows this, she leaves me alone. I wake up, I have my 4 topics already lined up. I don't know what I'm going to say, but I know the 4 topics, and then I'll spend an hour on each one or an hour or 2 on each one, and then I'll just knock them out. And then on the blog, I can schedule them.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back and tweak them as the week goes by, but they're done.
Yeah.
So that frees that up. And then now I'm starting to work on another book of short stories, so I like to keep my hands busy there. And I just like to write. I mean, I know other writers don't enjoy it, but for me, there's also the joy of, like, I don't know what's going to come out of me. And if it makes me laugh, then I got to assume it makes other people laugh.
Yeah, you're right.
For me, it's a blessing. It really is a blessing. I mean, I don't want to sound immodest, but it's there, and it comes out of nowhere. I don't know where it is, and then I'm compelled to put it on the thing. And it's really, like, I have no choice in the matter. Same with the jokes about, like, if Trump will do something, and I got to make fun of that. Like this week was when Sean Spicer did that Dancing with the Stars, and he wore that lime green shirt. Like, to me, I find that so amusing. And so I got the thought, I was like, well, what if everybody started wearing that lime green shirt? And so I started photoshopping the green shirt onto all the politicians. And it just makes me laugh, you know?
Yeah.
Hey, this is A.Turner from Lions Rock Productions. We create podcasts around here, and if you, your brand, or your company want to figure out how to do a podcast, just talk to me. I'll give you the advice on the right gear, the best plan, and show you how to take a podcast that makes sense for you, that's sustainable, that's scalable, and fun. Hit me up at pete@breakitdownshow.com. Let me help. I want to hear about it.
All the politicians, and it just makes me laugh, you know?
Yeah. But it's silly, and we both create things, and I've learned to trust that wherever I'm taking the audience on our conversation is the right place, you know, because you just do it, and I can't fret about it too much anyhow.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that gets away from production and more towards, like, the side that doesn't work well, you know.
Yeah.
So err on the side of writing the words down and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the Spicer thing sort of answers a question I wanted to ask, but yeah, give us some more examples of when the moment of brilliance pops. You're like, I can use that, or ooh, let me save that. What do those things look like?
Well, the news is a great fount of material these days. I mean, and it happens throughout the day. I mean, I don't know what's going on now. We're spending an hour here.
Yeah.
Something's going on now. I know it.
Yeah.
And it'll hit me, and then I consume a lot of news. I like to think of myself as a news junkie, and it kicks around in there. Mm-hmm. And then the more it bounces against other things, that's how it happens, you know. And then, you know.
Who's your apart from the president? The precedent.
Yeah.
Right. Who's your favorite foil? Who do you love to see? You're like, I know that today is the day I've got to go check in on so-and-so.
It used to be... I did this for years. I'll give you the website. For years, I did this thing on Kim Jong-un.
Oh, okay.
Because before Trump was around, I did 6 years on Kim Jong-un. He is a fascinating character. He still is, but I've sort of backed up. But for a while there, I found a website. It was put out by the North Korean Public Relations Company, and they would put pictures of him. They still do it. They put pictures of him where he goes to potato farms, he goes to fisheries, he checks out submarines, he looks at women's shoes. This man loves the camera. And a friend of mine pointed out, I was like, his photographer had been ordered to do, like, all the shots are medium. Like, there's no differing angles. They're all medium shots. And that must be the way Kim likes it. So I had, like, thousands of these photos available to me. And I started a Tumblr account. And I would take the photo right off the North Korean press release, and then I would write my own little caption for it.
Nice.
And I had a Tumblr account before Tumblr used to be very popular. And I would do one of those a day. I had 6 years worth of that.
Wow.
And I wanted to put a book together of that, but I don't have the rights to the North Korean photos. And those people can get a little hinky, you know. They could come after me in a not a very nice way.
Yeah.
So I just left it on the blog. But he's my foil.
Yeah.
He was a foil. It was like because the ridiculous photos, the captions would write themselves, you know.
Yeah.
Plus he likes to eat a lot. He's got his own little peculiarities, you know.
Yeah, he does. He is an interesting guy, and having the president and him interacting, it's just such a it's It's a unique world.
It's kind of surreal. I wrote today this. It feels very surreal.
Yeah.
Like somehow, like our feet are like not on the ground sometimes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I mean, opinions on the president aside, I think we all have to agree that he loves to make mistakes on purpose. It's like, I'm going to purposely make these mistakes over and over again.
Yeah.
And I just like, that job is so hard. Why would you want to make it any harder
I think he loves the chaos. He loves it, and
that could be.
I think and it serves him well too. I mean, he's not dumb.
No.
He's cagey.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not smart either, but he's very cagey. He's got New York caginess to him. And I grew up in New York, so I'm very familiar with his tactics. But the thing is, like, I was writing to someone today, it's like, think about like all the shit that's happening this week.
Mm-hmm.
We're not even talking about what happened last week.
Yeah.
And there was a lot last week. There was Greenland. There was the Sharpie.
Mm-hmm.
There was, like not giving aid to the people in Bahamas. Nobody's talking about any of that because he just piles on more and more stuff.
Yeah.
And next week there'll be something completely different.
And he sells product.
Yep.
I mean, if you aren't paying, if you're a news outlet, you're not paying attention to him. You are not selling ads as much as your peers are.
Right.
Because everybody he moves numbers. Well, who would be? And I didn't have to be a specific person, but what are the characteristics of someone who maybe can handle the presidency better than, I don't know, than what we've seen, I don't know, the last, like, say, 5 presidents? It's been, a big swath of people and styles, but what works?
For me, I miss the days when I would wake up in the morning and not have to think about it.
Yeah.
I like I was telling Rob last week, is like, I don't, I was never very political.
Yeah.
But in the last 2 years, I sort of like had to be, and we've all had to be. It's become like the game that we all follow, and I'm exhausted by it. As much as I find it funny and it's fun to do, and it's exhausting. And for the next one, I just want someone who's going to handle the job, and not be dramatic about it, and just do the job, and let us like get back to some kind of normalcy. The thing is, like, I've been in the business world for the last 35 years. If there were an employee who's doing what he does, they'd have been fired a long time ago.
Right.
Just a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not stupid. We see through all that stuff. I know there's some people that agree with the policies, and I can have a policy disagreement. Like, I didn't like a lot of stuff George Bush did, but at least I respected him, and I didn't think that he was going to, like, sell the country out. There was just a feeling of security there, even though I might have disagreed. That's what I think will get us back to some kind of normalcy.
There's this challenge of being popular enough to gather the votes to be able to get to the end of the road, and it's hard. Like, if you're the best, whoever the best person is in the legislature for that job, they're so busy doing the job that they're not gathering the votes, and their outsized ego isn't in the way because they just got the broom in their hand and they're just working. They're on committees, they're going out, and that's what they're doing. I just don't know that person can rise anymore.
No, I know. And then you look at the ones that are out there. I don't think he's got a snowball's chance in getting elected. But I like this Pete Buttigieg guy. He's not the most charismatic by any means, but you ask him a question and you ask him what he has in plans for. Boy, he's smart.
Yeah,
he is smart, and he's very even tempered. That's the other thing I like about him, is he'll like look you in the eye and address the issue.
Sure.
And I think it makes sense to a lot of people. But the fact that he's gay is I don't think America's ready for that. It's unfortunate, but I just don't think they are.
I mean, if it cost him some votes, he doesn't have that many votes to give either way, right?
Right.
The thing I realized about him the other day, and this has nothing to do with anything, but I was watching Stripes, and John Candy, when he's going to go into the mud wrestling pit, has the very, like, he could be his uncle.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this in a disparaging way towards either of them. It's just like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of resemblance. Their eyebrows are the same kind of nose. And I was like, because I was watching John Candy, it's a young John Candy, and I'm looking and I'm like, he looks like somebody.
Now I'll have to go look
at
it.
You got to look. And they're not twins, but they're kin.
Yeah.
So it's a funny thing.
Yeah.
What's the next best idea in advertising? I mean, we have like getting in front of podcasts like Joe Rogan, major brands doing that. So maybe that was the next best idea. But what is the next best thing?
I don't know. I'm still a big believer in TV. I did I was hired not so long ago to work on some Super Bowl spots for the next Super Bowl, which was nice. I haven't done that in a while, and I've had so many close calls with the Super Bowl. It's one of my big frustrations.
Yeah.
You know, like there was one year I did a spot for Guitar Hero, and I beat out a whole bunch of people, and they chose my spot. And Aerosmith was going to be in it, and Al Gore was going to be in it. It was a big production, a huge production. It was just introducing the new Guitar Hero, and the budget for the spot was like unlimited. And they picked my commercial, and everybody approved it. It went through the ranks. Then they were going to hire a director, and then at the last minute, the client decided, we don't want to do it. We're going to sell the ad space. Oh man, I was this close. So that's always been like I wanted to do that. And then so recently I did this Super Bowl stuff, and it was fun. I got to write some great, funny Super Bowl stuff. I don't know where they're gonna go. It's such a long, drawn out thing, and I can't tell you who it's for.
Of course.
But that was great.
Yeah.
And I would love to see the rise of TV again. I still think to get to that many people, I don't think anything else is going to compete with it.
Yeah, that was the next thing. Is at some point the pendulum, in some form or fashion, swings back the other way towards more creative in the ads and something more akin to what it was before.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing is, I know this writer who talks about this all the time, and it's like the market is not as young as a lot of these agencies pretend it is.
Right.
Like the people buying cars, most of them are over 35 years age. Most of them have a lot of money. They make good money at their work. That's where the spending is, And so why are they wasting their money, like advertising to hipsters and these kids who are just getting out of car? They don't have the money, and they're not the ones spending.
They're buying Volkswagen Jettas.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas that baby boomer crowd, like, I'm going to buy one more car, and it's going to be like the flagship. This is my last big car.
Right.
And they might not outlive that car because they're living so long now,
Right.
But they want the high-end car that you really could put an ad campaign behind.
Right. By the way, I bought one of those.
Yeah.
It's not the flagship, but I bought myself I guess you'd call it a midlife crisis car, a late midlife crisis car. I bought it a year ago.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of shopping around, but I wanted this. I settled on the Audi, and I got the S5.
Nice. Sporty.
Oh my God, yeah. And not only is it sporty, the S line is the supercharged line. So the engine is like supercharged. And my wife kills me because she goes, "You never drive it." I go, "It sits in the driveway. It's nice. I'll drive it once in a while, but it's so much fun." And I should have done it years ago, but I'm finally at the age where I had the disposable income to do that for myself.
Have a car, to buy a fancy car that's expensive that you don't drive.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. It adorns the driveway.
Yeah.
It looks good in the driveway.
We should go up to Willow Springs and put it on the track and let it do what it's supposed to do.
Oh, I know.
It would be really, you'd love that.
I did that years ago when I worked at Chiat. They used to take us for ride and drives.
Yeah.
And that's where we went to, Willow Springs. I also think that's a great business model. Like, we were driving Nissan Maximas, and they had the 5 competitive cars there. And so you'd get in one, you'd drive a couple laps, and then you'd get in the next one, and then you do the same thing throughout the day. So you drove 6 cars, and it was so easy to tell the difference. Like, oh, I know which one is best. And I know it doesn't matter which one right now, but that's the way the car buying experience should be.
Yeah.
They should somehow have all the cars there. You'd make the appointment. They'd have all the competitive models. You drive them all at once. You go, oh, I know which one I want.
Yeah. Any of them, too.
Yeah.
Maybe you want an economical car. Maybe you want a car that's got great doors to get in and out of.
Right.
Whatever.
Right. You should call a guy or a woman and say, these are the ones I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Bring the 3 or 4 cars to my house.
Yeah.
Drive them. Somebody needs to revamp that whole car buying experience because I don't know about you. I dread going into those.
I don't like it either.
Yeah,
I want to never buy a car again.
Yeah, exactly. Because you always feel like they're cheating you.
And then I always feel like you're cheating. And then I can't differentiate, like you were saying, between brand 1 through 15. Like, what really is the difference here?
Right.
Well,
because you'll drive one, and then a half hour later you arrive at the next one. You talk a little, and then he puts you in that car.
Yeah.
And then you've already forgotten how the other one felt.
Right.
But when you do it a minute-to-minute comparison, I don't know. I think if someone were smart, someone smarter than me and had the money, they would changed the way car buying is. 'Cause
Sure.
I think that is the biggest billion-dollar business that's out there right now. Because nobody I know likes buying cars.
Yeah.
Nobody. And I had a lease one because my old car crapped out, and I hated it. I hated it.
Yeah. And they use all the things against you. Like they're purposely like you're in a bad situation because you need this car.
Right.
You know, and so you're like, I'm not going to sit here all day. I don't have to sit here all day.
Right.
I will walk out. I know you don't want me to do that. So chop, get to it. you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And they make it painful. And even
the whole
if they tell you they're bringing you the right price, they're not bringing you the right price.
No. Yeah. I worked on the other end of it for a while selling motorcycles, and I couldn't do it because they would celebrate how badly they'd screwed that person over.
Oh, yeah.
And I just like it confirmed my bias against, you know, and look, everybody's got to make their profession, however, but it didn't sit right with me. I couldn't keep that job.
My favorite story is this guy was a Porsche fan, and he went into a dealership, and he met this dealer. He found out the story later. That they called him the Hook, and he was an amputee. He lost it at a meat packing plant, but he would tell people he lost it in Vietnam. So he'd try to he'd do that kind of like stolen valor kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's walking around with this hook, and then they would do the dealing thing, and it would be time to sign the thing, and the guy would do this every time. He would reach for the pen with his little hook thing, and he would drop it on purpose.
Yeah.
And then he would try to pick it up off the ground.
Couldn't do
and
it.
he just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And he would just fiddle with it. And so the guy who's buying the thing's like, oh, man, I feel so sorry for him.
Yeah.
And he'd finally get up, and he would stop negotiating.
Yeah.
So the guy would sign the paper and take off with his Porsche. And then he grabbed the pen with his two little metal fingers and twiddle it like a baton. That's how skilled he was with it.
Right.
And, just like, oh, God. It's just...
Yeah. So you've got a great feel for pop culture and all those kind of things. Why doesn't Gen X stand out? Like the baby boomers, there's so many of them, you know, and then the millennial is in the second bump, you know, all that kind of thing. We're kind of wedged in between. And let's say Joe Biden becomes president, and then next time around, we're just never going to get our shot at running things.
What's Gen X? You have to remind me what the ages are.
So it's post baby boom. So let's call it like 65 to like 85, like ish in that segment, right?
Okay.
And so it's just the folks from our generation. We're just, you know, they don't sell to us specifically. You never hear them go, oh man, I can't wait to get, you know, the Gen X market is such a good market.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not a thing. But the millennials and the baby boomers have that attention.
Yeah, I don't know. I think part of it is the culture that prevailed. My friend suggests it's all music related.
Okay.
Like the music that came from the baby boomers. That stuff lasts. And now you've got kids like listening to Fleetwood Mac, and, you know, it's like it's all making a comeback.
Right.
And then, you know, there's my kids' generation, and that's the kind of music I can't listen to. But I don't know. There's like that kind of like gap in there musically that it just didn't feel substantive enough, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you think of like 80s, you think about
Hair bands.
hair bands and new wave and these things that you do on a keyboard. It's not quite music, and it's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. It's catchy, but it isn't the same thing as Fleetwood Mac.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't know. I think part of it is the music.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. What else do you think it might be?
I don't know. I haven't given it that much thought. I just I certainly don't fancy myself an expert on pop culture, but because now these days my relation to pop culture comes through my two daughters. I have two that are, one's 22 and one's 23, so they're sort of my focus group, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always offer, like, if you want to ask me some questions, of course you can too. If you have anything you want to.
Sure. How did you start this pod thing?
I got back from Afghanistan and I wanted to tell stories.
Oh, were you in the service?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
for sure. And so a friend of mine had a radio show, like community radio, and I, it just worked out. I just kept going. I kept showing up, and we found out we had this vibe. And then they quickly are like, "You guys are too big for this. Go explore, do something bigger." And that's where the podcast came from.
Oh.
So that's sort of the genesis story. And then we just keep getting bigger and bigger and improving, and just working through all the problems, and we haven't found a barrier that we haven't been able to somehow get by. It may not be the barrier you want to conquer,
right?
But next thing you know, you've got like a high level of skill going that direction,
right,
and then in that direction. So
yeah, I think that's good to be flexible enough to do
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
tell me about the service. That's interesting.
I was a combat spy, basically. So I would go out every day and talk to the locals in Iraq, Afghanistan, Bosnia.
speak Arabic?
everything. No, but I'm a master at using an interpreter.
Oh, okay.
So I'm able to take an interpreter, make them me, and understand my partner person I'm talking to at a level that like I don't hardly have any peers at that. So I'm good at that part of it.
And how long were you there for?
A long time. I've
Wow.
got 70 months in combat zones.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm thoroughly impressed.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate it.
I mean, I don't think we do enough for you people. I'll tell you what I did years ago. You'll appreciate
Tell
this.
me this.
I used to do a lot of distance swimming.
Uh-huh.
And I did it twice. I got hooked up with the Wounded Warriors, and I have a following on the blog, and I said I'm going to raise money for Wounded Warriors.
Yeah.
So I'm not one to actually go out and swim to Catalina or the English Channel, but I know those distances.
Yeah.
And I know the pool distance.
Yeah.
And so I created a little thing online where I did distance swimming, and I raised money per mile for this. I confined myself to a week.
Sure.
So I did, I think, 12 miles the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot which one it was. It was either the English Channel or the Catalina thing. And I did 12 miles, and I asked people to sponsor me per mile.
Yeah.
And I raised like $1,400
Boom. Yeah.
off to the Wounded Warriors.
Yeah.
The next one I did, I said I'm going to do more. I'm going to do 21 miles in 1 week. So that's 3 miles a day.
Yeah.
Which is not easy to do for
Right.
an older guy like
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
And I did an ad for it too. And I said, I did some research. I said, in 1944, these troops crossed the English Channel in a period of like whatever the number was.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to do it, but without the services of a boat. And so that was my ad. And then I grew the attention for that. And this time the list was much longer. And I raised like close to $4,500
Wow.
for Wounded Warriors just by swimming.
Yeah.
And it was very rewarding. And somebody over at Wounded Warriors, contacted me, and it was really nice. And
Yeah.
I felt like it's the least I could do.
Yeah, and it's great. Actually, it's coincidentally funny that you're mentioning that. Tomorrow, I will be swimming around Coronado with the SEALs Veterans Foundation, and they help Navy special warfare type people who either are badly injured or pass away. They help their families.
Oh.
And so we're raising money for that, and I'm going to be donning the wetsuit and.
And how much are you going to swim?
It is a relay in this case. You can do the full thing, but I just got a surgery about 2 months ago, so it's the full it's like 8 miles basically, and then you just take turns. So you do 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, and then your team goes around. And
Is it in the ocean or the bay there?
well, I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think, but you got like boats that go with you, and the point is we're out there and we're raising awareness. So anytime you're going to do a swim thing, please let me know. I'd love to join with you.
Okay.
Pete and Rich are going to swim across the pool. I swim all the time.
All right.
It's an activity that I can do still. My beat up body. And
it's very therapeutic. I stopped about a year ago, but I should get back in the pool. I would do it every day.
Yeah.
I just love it. And I used to have the little things where you listen to music.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes you just forget, you're just swimming. And
yeah.
if I get in a pool and I have the whole thing to myself, I could do it forever.
How long does it take for you to get to that spot where you're not counting laps and you're just swimming and you lose track and you're like, oh, I've been swimming for an hour?
Yeah. After 20 minutes.
After 20 minutes?
If I can stop counting and I'm in the rhythm and I'm feeling strong, it just goes away. I don't think.
Yeah, because when you the 25 meter part, when you swim at the level that we can, it's not that we're fast. It's just 25 meters. That's nothing. That'll be over in a few seconds.
Yeah.
And you flip and then you start another one.
Yeah.
And,
I'll tell you a funny thing. When I swam down here at Playa del Rey, my brother lived there, and Blake Griffin used to swim there when he was.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he was doing rehab for his knee.
Yeah.
So he would be there a lot. He became a really good swimmer. I mean, that guy is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I've seen good swimmers. This guy was incredible. And he would do the 25 meters in 6 strokes. It was like, whoa.
Jeez.
6 strokes
Yeah.
because he's long, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
very
yeah.
athletic. So one day he brings all the clippers over there. And so, like, they were all over there, and all these guys, they don't swim.
Yeah.
And they're all jumping in the water and slapping at it, and they're all out of breath.
Yeah.
And these are professional athletes. They're all
Right.
making millions of dollars. But when it comes to, like, swimming in length of the pool,
Can't do it.
they were, like, out of breath and
Yeah.
dying. And I was like, go back and forth. It felt so good. It's like, yeah, at least I could compare myself to that, you know?
Yeah, when I just started swimming again, I guess in the spring, I was like, okay, yeah, let me try this. And I got in, and I'm like, if I can do like half a mile,
Yeah.
I'll be pretty happy. And then once I just got going and convinced myself, I just swam a mile.
Yeah.
And my friends are like, how could you do that? Like, I can't swim a mile. And I'm like, I guess if you can swim, it just isn't that hard.
Yeah, once you get past the out of breath stage, then
Yeah.
it just becomes a rhythm, and
Yeah.
and you just. My doctor would say, just whatever you do, just keep doing it, because it's just like my heartbeat was in the 40s, like my resting heartbeat was.
Yeah.
I think it's built like for us, like kind of barrel chested
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of guys. It's good for us.
Barrel chested's a good way to say like we're strong and fit. Lumberjacks.
My other friend, he's also involved with Wounded Warrior. He does he teaches surfing to some of the Wounded Warriors who are amputees and otherwise debilitated, and he
Yeah.
gets them out there surfing.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
There's a couple of the surf charities. Kyle Bucket runs one, and there's like some surf, just ocean therapy. Get
Yeah.
you in the ocean,
Yeah.
whether you're, you don't got to get up on a board. Just get out to the ocean. Let's get you in it, and however you can.
Yeah.
And it's a lot
Were you a
of help out
SEAL?
there.
Were you a Navy SEAL?
No, I was just a regular old like Army guy, but I worked at that level, so I would go work with those guys, and I happen to know a number of them, and I was looking for something to push me. One, I have a very powerful charitable, like I have to do it. I feel compelled, but then also like for me to stay alive and mentally well, I need something like that. And so it's like, this will give me something to work for, and hopefully next year I'll just swim the whole damn thing myself.
Good for you.
You know?
Good for you.
Yeah, I like that kind of thing.
Good. There was a show on. I forgot what the name of it. It was. They covered the Navy SEAL training.
Oh yeah,
I loved that show.
yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, it was. It was like holy shit. I mean, I like I run marathons and do distance swimming, so that whole notion of like enduring through pain is sort of like that's part of my DNA. But watching those guys are just like, holy shit.
There's a guy we had on, so we did all, and this show will come out later on, but during this week before my swim, we did all special operators. We featured them. And one of them is a guy named Rob Owens. He was a Air Force pararescue, and that's like the defensive special forces. Like if something happens to someone and they're hanging upside down from a tree in another country, they go get that guy.
Yeah.
And so they're incredibly fit because they don't know what they're going to encounter, and they're like not quite doctors, but they're not medics. They're more than that. And so they'll go and they'll save your life. So he is 67 years old. And he does things like, I ran a marathon a day for 7 days on 7 different continents.
Oh,
Yeah. And then he did this BUDS pre-training thing that the Navy's like, hey, Mr. SEAL guy, Mark Devine, can you design a course to help these guys get through? So like, look, it's not about fitness. It's about that mental toughness.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be hurt doing
Right.
this. You may break your leg, but when are you going to quit? So can you get these guys? So this guy at 66 years old, he made it through that whole thing. And if you pass through that, you're 95% going to make it through Hell Week. And if you get to Hell Week, almost everybody graduates.
yeah.
So that incredible, right?
Yeah,
At
oh,
66 years
and they'd
old.
ring that bell when the guys would get out. I was like, I'd have been out so long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to think of myself as having a good character to endure that stuff, but
Yeah.
just seeing that with the
It's
log,
incredible.
holding the log and sitting in the water and just all that stuff. It's just,
Hey, well, listen, I really appreciate it. Everybody should make sure they get Mr. Siegel Writes to Washington. That's your book. It's on Amazon. I'll put a link in the show notes. And just, man, I love reading your stuff. Everybody should go check out the blog. The blog is called
round17.blogspot.com.
And if you really want to get the best of what Rich does, follow him on LinkedIn because that's where the funny happens. And there's some really good stuff on there. And so I appreciate you hanging out with us.
That was
today.
my pleasure. It's my pleasure.